So 2 months ago, I watched the movie Oppenheimer and I didn't understand what was going on. Even though the hamster in my brain was speeding up to pick up the story, I was mesmerized by the cinematography, music, effects, and the millions of actors you'd never expect to play some of these roles. Genuinely don't know how they got Einstein to sign on to this movie. Thought that guy was like dead or something. While watching the movie, I was thinking to myself, wow. Atomic bombs sure are dangerous and are probably one of the scariest possibilities in which humanity could end up going extinct. That's pretty dope. So I made a tier list of the best atomic bombs in video games. Now listen, I am not Become Death, Destroyer of Worlds, so not every game in existence is going to be on this list. Also, please note that I'm not actually critiquing these games as a whole. I'm only critiquing very few portions that include nuclear bombs. I may give a game a low score, but it may be a fantastic game overall. First up, we've got Battlefield 3. And where do these people come from? Battlefield 3 is one of the more popular games of the series. Many people fell in love with this game because of the stunning graphics, weapon variety, and let's be honest, its multiplayer mode. But all that doesn't matter because we're focusing on just one mission. So during the mission Comrades, the player is attempting to seize a nuclear bomb. After killing some bad people, and killing some innocent people, the player finally catches up to the person who's carrying the warhead. Just as they are celebrating, they soon find out
it was a trick. A ruse. A silly distortion of reality resulting in such an eventful ploy of chicanery and casualistic artifice.
And then they blow up or something. On the story front, I think it's pretty mid. It uses nuclear bombs or the idea of an extremely powerful weapon in a way that lacks much meaning in the overall story, and it's also overdone like a million times throughout media. The gameplay also lacks too, because although the objective is to stop a nuclear bomb, you don't necessarily interact with it in a meaningful way. You just kill people like any other portion of the game. And then there are visuals in which you barely see the nuclear bomb. But I'll give it some credit because it's somewhat of an interesting perspective to see the detonation in a nearby location. And I also thought the audio work was pretty cool. So I'm going to give Battlefield 3 an E. I'm already doubting any possibility of me surviving to the end of this video. Next up, we've got Call of Duty Cold War, because I hate the FPS community. Please, guys, listen, I'm one of you. Cold War is one of the more recent releases in the Call of Duty franchise, meaning there's already 4 more in front of it. Getting straight to the point and putting aside the Ronald and the brainwashing, the non-canonical ending for this game is that the player, Bell, betrays the US and sides with their former friends, the Soviet Union. Bell just like me for real. Legally speaking, that was a joke. I want to make sure that's clear. The Soviet Union then bombs all of Europe, and the CIA just kind of pretends it didn't happen, which is actually one of the only believable things about this game. So this story was the typical cat and mouse chase these campaign games usually are. And nuclear bombs are used similarly in the same way Battlefield 3 uses them. The same thing can be said about the gameplay. It doesn't really connect to the detonation of the nuclear bomb. You just shoot people all the time. Which it's an FPS, so it makes sense. The visuals are also extremely lacking. We don't necessarily see a nuclear bomb detonate. We basically see a compilation of the effects the nuclear bombs had, in which a lot of the photos and videos are real footage that were either photoshopped or slightly CGI. Cold War also gets me. Next, we've got Fallout 4. I remember when this game came out and everyone fell in love with the first 20 minutes of it. The opening to this game was quite literally the opening to this game. You choose how your character looks, your name and specs, you even get a good look at your demon baby. After being informed by the news of nuclear bombs hitting all over the US, you, your wife, and baby run to the famous boat in which you were just invited to by a salesman 5 minutes prior. Not gonna lie, now that I'm thinking about it, that's kind of weird. I don't really think there's anything in this opening that really builds much of a story due to the fact that it's an opening, so I can't really give it much story points for that. But the game does a rather good job with the gameplay. You don't necessarily interact with the detonation, but the scare of running to the vault as well as seeing the chaos of people trying to do the same thing is pretty cool. I'd argue they could have done a way better job with this by making the event more realistic, as well as focusing more on the anarchy and the misery this event would have caused. Something that resembled The Last of Us. Okay, I'm just saying. What really takes the cake in this though is the detonation itself. Out of nowhere, we get to see this perfect shot of the bomb going off just as the vault is lowering, barely escaping the shockwave. This is why I'm going to give Fallout 4 a P. So with Resident Evil 3 being the next game we're looking at, I want to be clear that I'm only going to consider the remasters in this list. I know that's kind of cheating with the visuals, but I also don't really care. It's not that deep. So after the illegal production of a human-made virus called the T-virus, an outbreak occurs in which there are thousands of zombies running around in Raccoon City. To spare some of the details, the US government is basically like, oh no, we didn't do our jobs! And now there are zombies. What you gonna do? Good reason to use this.
Oh my piece.
And then our main characters are like,
yo, chill, man.
So then the government delays the bomb by like 5 minutes or something. Story-wise, I think this is the best we've seen so far. Although the use of a nuclear bomb here isn't too interesting, using it to destroy a population of zombies is kinda cool. I like the total annihilation of Walking Dead stuff. Gameplay-wise though, unfortunately, we in no way interact with the nuclear bomb. But let me tell you, the visuals. Oh, the visuals. Cebu. Resident Evil 3 gets a C. You know, there's been a lot of AAA games on this list. Let's add another, Far Cry 5. And unlike most AAA games, players actually like Far Cry's recent releases, for the most part. The use of nuclear bombs in this game is quite different from many other games we're looking at today. In no way does the game focus on nuclear bombs, nor is the player very aware of their coming detonation. The small references they get is when Joseph Seed refers to the collapse in his very weirdly vague religious ways, or through small hints like the game's radio.
Russia has been attacked. Bombs hit Moscow this morning. No final word on casualties, but experts are saying the numbers are in the millions. Washington, D.C. is preparing to evacuate. The president has already been moved to a secure location. Meanwhile, the National Military Command Center is deploying crisis response teams to major cities along the eastern seaboard. The first attack could come at any moment.
I think it's fair to say that when the nuclear detonations occurred, players were surprised. Many in a bad way. There are various theories of what actually happened in the game and how closely Joseph Seed was involved in the nuclear detonations. Some people even encouraging the idea that Seed actually had some insight from God. Since I'm running out of time, I'm going to just take exactly what the game gives us. So to summarize, the premise of the game is that Joseph Seed, who is a ruthless religious prophet, convinces the residents of Hope County of a soon violent collapse of society. And the only way to survive is by listening to him. Indoctrination 101. One of the reasons for Seed's success, not only as a religious prophet, but as a government leader, is that he blocked any outside communication to Hope County, which is why none of the residents know the world is spiraling into nuclear warfare. Story-wise, I think this is an extremely interesting take on the use of nuclear bombs in media. Although it isn't very well received by many, the ending had players talking and created a strong reaction. To further complement the story, I think the undertones of nuclear warfare matches greatly with one of its themes. The game suggests just how powerful leaders can become when their followers are ignorant. Ignorance amongst a large group of people just invites leaders to then bend the truth to whichever way they want. Which is why Seed in many ways can seem correct in his predictions, but at the same time is not only questionable, but contradictory. Okay, so that checks off. Video essay on my list. What's next? Oh, okay, so I can start being dumb again. Okay, so gameplay blows the competition out of the water. I'm talking about speeding, dodging nuclear missiles, and burning trees, and chaos. This is one of the most havoc endings out there. And the gameplay is extremely heightened by the visuals. The animation, the clouds, the music, the colors, they were very well done. This is why I'm giving Far Cry an S, with no doubt about it. So this, I suppose, concludes my short, incomplete, and probably will never be completed Atomic Bombs in Video Games tier list. I'd be interested in doing a part 2 and probably will cover more games the second time around, but I don't know. Comment below recommendations or tell me what you didn't like about my list. Hopefully it isn't too bad.